Hello and welcome to this reality check exclusive from Sri Lanka. Now, Sri Lanka has survived a bloody civil war but finds itself in the middle of a crisis of a different kind. A political crisis of the kind that it has rarely witnessed in its modern history. The Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe, ousted by his own president, President Sirisena. But the Prime Minister refusing to leave his Temple Trees residence. This is the iconic home, which has been the home of the Prime Ministers of this country, and Ranil Wickremesinghe is refusing to budge. He says, I am still the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, creating a deadlock. How is it going to be resolved? And what is behind it? What should India's concerns be? And was there, as the President even once seemed to suggest, the Indian hand behind a plot to assassinate him? Find out in the next 30 minutes as we talk to key players in the Sri Lankan conflict, starting with Prime Minister, or rather deposed Prime Minister, Ranil Wickremesinghe. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us on NDTV for this exclusive. Now, this is quite a situation we have here, that you have been removed as Prime Minister, but I'm still talking to you from the Prime Minister's residence. You've not left. Why is that?
I am the Prime Minister. According to the Constitution, the person who commands the confidence of Parliament is the Prime Minister. If the Prime Minister loses the floor test in Parliament, then he ceases to be Prime Minister, and the President must appoint a new Prime Minister.
So as we speak, as of today, you are the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka?
Yes, I command the confidence of Parliament. And unless I fail a floor test, I continue to be Prime Minister.
What about Mr. Rajapaksa then? Because he's been appointed Prime Minister by Mr. Sirisena.
Yes, I saw that he was also been appointed Prime Minister.
Yes.
So you have all what has happened is there is a constitutional crisis.
Okay.
And that constitutional crisis has led to a political crisis.
Where effectively it seems that Sri Lanka, as we speak, has two Prime Ministers.
Actually, Sri Lanka at the moment has no government. No one knows what the legal situation is. This is why we say go back to Parliament and determine.
Right. But it's interesting that you've chosen to stay on at Temple Trees. Is this almost a sign of resistance?
Well, I came here on Friday night when I heard a second person has been thrown into the post of Prime Minister when it was not vacant. We had a discussion with all our senior members, ministers, and then we decided that we will mobilize public opinion. This was done because the weekend came in and they thought that they could basically get things done over the weekend. But on Saturday morning, I found people were coming in here and they were regarding this as the symbol of legitimacy, of constitutional legitimacy. So this has become a symbol of legitimacy.
The House, the residence.
The House, and I think that gave time for everyone to organize themselves, for the other parties, for civil movement, all to issue their statements. And the big rally we had sort of is a culmination of that exercise.
Now, you know, the world is still trying to make sense, Mr. Wickremesinghe, of what exactly has happened here. Why has this happened? The President claims that the main trigger was that there was a plot to assassinate him, involving someone in his own cabinet. That's why he had to sack you. To that you say what?
Firstly, there was a statement made by one individual who had worked also in the President's Secretariat, who claimed that there was a dispute between senior police officers, which was well known, and there was an attempt to assassinate both President and the former Secretary of Defense, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa. I informed the police, have a full investigation and keep the President informed. So he could decide what should be done. I gave the same instructions the Minister of Law and Order. To my knowledge, the CID has kept the President informed. I didn't intervene. At no stage did the President tell me that there was a minister involved, except one day at the last meeting of Cabinet. He made a reference without saying a minister. But he had me about the plot to assassinate him. At no stage did he tell me or anyone else that there was a minister involved. If there was evidence, I asked the police, and the police told me there is no evidence against any minister.
Oh, I see. So the police are saying that this claim that there was a minister involved in the plot to kill the president, there's no evidence.
There's no evidence. So if he had some evidence, he should have told me or the cabinet.
So are you suggesting that this is an excuse that has been made up by him?
Well, if he says there's evidence, I have not given any evidence, so I think it's an excuse. An allegation was made about a plot to kill him.
Yes.
It didn't say that there was a minister involved.
Okay.
Subsequently, only that person had made an allegation
saying
a minister was involved. But the police told me there's no evidence about a minister being involved.
Okay, so then why do you think this has happened? What has triggered it?
Well, that's the difficulty because President himself was talking with former President Mahinda Rajapaksa the last few weeks of the party getting together and of backing him to be presidential candidate.
Right.
So this must have been a part of that deal.
I see.
Because Mr. Rajapaksa cannot become a presidential candidate. So this would have been the way they cut the deal.
They cut the deal, that what happens? Mr. Rajapaksa becomes Prime Minister.
And the president will become the candidate at the next election.
Oh, in the next election?
Presidential election.
This is the real reason, you think?
But that's what a lot of people believe it to be.
Well, one of the things that we also heard in this business about the plot to kill him, which you must have also seen, were newspaper reports suggesting that India's spy agency, RAW, was somehow behind this plot.
There were some insinuations to that effect also, that India was behind it. So at one time it's India, one time it's a minister in the cabinet. So we have to decide who's behind it actually.
But did the president actually insinuate the India angle?
There was an insinuation.
He did. And apparently
that's the ways that many members of the cabinet had construed it.
I see. Were you present in the cabinet when he made that insinuation?
Yes.
And so you heard him say that?
He made a statement which could have been construed that way.
I see. But of course, subsequently, the government has come out and clarified that that was incorrect and that India had no role to play. India has also come out and completely denied it.
May have been made in the heat of the moment, people say various things in the heat of the moment.
Okay. But it was just to understand, because to viewers back in India, that as far as the Sri Lankan government is concerned, they don't
the government of Sri Lanka doesn't think says that there was no involvement by the Indian government. That is the position of the government of Sri Lanka.
Okay. Mr. Wickramasinghe, there's another India connection which some say also has been behind this conflict, which is to do with the development of the Sri Lanka, the Colombo port, a certain part of the port, what is called the eastern part of it. And I believe it was your case that should be developed with the help of India, and the president felt otherwise.
There was a proposal in 2016 that this be done as a public-private partnership.
Right.
Since we had to bear the burden also of the Hambantota harbour, that we should go for a public-private partnership.
Right.
ADB was of the same view. That's how it started. And then there was also a proposal that India should Indian companies should have a stake. I got cabinet approval to sign a memorandum of understanding, which included about the East Terminal. Once the cabinet approved the MOU, it was then taken to India and was signed between the two ministers.
All right.
So that is the cabinet decision is there.
And was there a dispute?
The matter had also been discussed earlier between Prime Minister Modi and President Sirisena.
Right.
When I went there, the Indian government stated its views, but said that all discussions have to take place within the framework of the memorandum of understanding between the two governments.
Right.
And cannot be done unilaterally.
Right.
So I conveyed that and suggested that talks begin between the two governments.
Okay, but did that lead, as reports have suggested, to an altercation between you and the president on who should develop the port?
No,
you saying India and he said...
No, all I said, there were different opinion when the cabinet was paper proposed.
Right.
All I said was, just put this back till I go to India, talk to them and come back.
Okay. But, the other aspect of this which the world and certainly India is watching very keenly, Mr. Wickramasinghe, is the concern that once again, the advent of Mr. Rajapaksa could see Sri Lanka tilting towards China. this allegation that in fact there is a proximity there and that this alters the balance of power?
Well,
is that a legitimate concern?
No, as I told you, firstly, I am the Prime Minister.
Yes.
Until I fail a floor test or elections are held.
Okay.
So, the question of policies changing do not occur.
All right. But is there a legitimate concern on the part of those who believe that this attempt by Mr. Rajapaksa to wrest power also is somewhere influenced by geopolitics, particularly the China factor?
No, there has been concerns expressed always about Mahinda Rajapaksa's foreign policy. So those concerns may be there yet.
Okay. I mean, if you look at the reactions around the world, now India has come out with a statement saying that they hope that democracy will be respected. Do you believe that that is enough?
Actually, what we want is democracy respected, and some countries have gone further and said the constitutional process must be carried on. I saw India had also made some reference.
Yes.
And finally, some of the countries have gone further and said, well, there must be a parliamentary floor test.
Yes, that's true. I think some of the Western countries have come out strongly.
If you follow the constitutional process, there has to be a floor test.
Right. But has India been in touch with you after the coup?
Yes, the High Commissioner met me.
I see. And what was the nature of those discussions?
We had a full discussion on this and their position that the constitution has to be respected and the constitutional procedures followed.
Oh, so they've said clearly that the constitutional procedures should be followed. Do you feel that largely the global community is behind you?
Global community is behind democracy.
Global community is behind democracy.
Democracy. I am also behind democracy.
Okay, but one report said that the Chinese ambassador conveyed to Mr. Rajapaksa that the Chinese High Command has welcomed him as Prime Minister.
I do not know what the Chinese ambassador told Mr. Rajapaksa. The Chinese ambassador came here. He met me. He wanted to know the details. He said he's meeting Mr. Rajapaksa also to find out the details because China wants to know what is happening in Sri Lanka.
Can I ask you a direct question? Is there some sort of Chinese hand behind what has happened here?
No, I have not seen a Chinese hand.
You don't see that at all?
No.
You see this very much as a part of a deal, you're saying,
yes,
between the
they
president
sorted out as
and Mr. Rajapaksa for the re-entry of Mr. Rajapaksa and Mr. Sirisena to once again contest as president.
That's what I would say.
You think that's all it is? But can I ask you this, sir, that, you know, one of the things that we've been hearing since we've come is that while certainly there is some public unrest at the fact that, you know, you have been deposed and there's been this coup, the fact is that your government came on the promise that you would be going after the Rajapaksas. There were allegations of corruption, there were allegations of human rights violation, and that's simply not happened.
There are cases filed against the members of previous regime. We can't go and hang people. We have a procedure where people have been taken before courts,
right,
and the court process has also been changed so that there is the delay has been reduced by a few years.
Right. But when you say hang people, when you say due process, so far none of the Rajapaksas have faced any kind of charges or any allegations.
I think there have been charges filed against some of them.
Okay, but none of them have actually had to suffer the consequences of any of it.
But the cases are on. Trials take time.
You're denying the fact that this is some kind of a compromise?
There are no compromise. There are cases filed, that's what I tell you.
Okay.
And there are cases going on.
So that process will continue regardless?
That process is continuing, yes.
But Mr. Vikramasinghe, I mean, where does Sri Lanka now go from here? Because the latest news that's come in is that Parliament is going to be convened.
Yes, so that's a victory for us. We wanted Parliament reconvened. So let's determine the issue in Parliament. That's all I say.
So will there now be a floor test? And
there has to be a floor test here. You can't.
There has to be a floor test.
Yeah, you can't avoid a floor test.
And if that happens, do you have the numbers?
I have the numbers.
So if you could just, because for the benefit of viewers in India, recap what the numbers are. The strength of the Sri Lankan Parliament is 225.
Yeah, requirement is 113. I have more than 113.
You have more than 113?
We have more than 113 for the restoration of the status quo.
Okay. But the other side claims that they're in touch with some of your MPs. Is that true?
Oh yes, when I was there, they rang one MP and offered that member of parliament money to cross over. And the member of my parliament
in front of you?
No, well, they were on the telephone. They didn't know the members in front of me, speaking with me.
Right.
Yeah, even other times when we are having discussions, we see calls coming into them. And each one said, I offered 150, I was million, I was offered
150 million what?
Rupees.
Rupees,
yeah.
okay.
Someone else. The other one, once when one of our members were offered 250 million, he just laughed and said, why don't you make it 400 million? And they said, we'll consider it.
So they are offering anywhere between 150 million to 400 million Sri Lankan rupees.
Yes.
Oh, well, he was joking about 400 million. But 150 million
100 million,
is approximately $1 million?
Yeah, about million.
About $1 million. So who's made that offer?
Different members of their party.
Of Mr. Rajapaksa's party?
Or the government, yes, or the president's group.
Of the president's group.
Ministries offered.
Are any of them tempted to cross over?
The ones who have spoken to me have not been tempted.
Okay, but are you worried that some of them may break ranks, in which case you fall short?
Our members are holding together, I think.
They are holding together. Where is so much money coming from? In your
Well, I don't know whether they have all that money, though they promise. Otherwise, it's some money that they have. You can just imagine.
But Mr. Vikram
we have to keep up with India, no? In the prices.
Well, I don't know about that. But where do you think that this process is going to lead? Do you seriously think that they will allow this floor test to be conducted?
Once there's parliament, you have to allow a floor test to be conducted. The result of parliament, we recall, is because the people wanted it. And they'll have to go in for a floor test.
Okay, but when otherwise the floor test is to be held...
Otherwise, they won't be running after members of parliament.
Right.
That's the only positive sign of it.
Okay, but when the floor test is to be held, how would it actually work? Because is it going to be your vote of confidence, or will it be Mr. Rajapaksa's vote of confidence?
We'll have to work a strategy out. We are talking with all the other parties in parliament as to what should be done here. First was to ensure parliament was reconvened. We've achieved that now.
Okay, no, but just technically though, they are claiming that Mr. Rajapaksa is the Prime Minister, and so the floor test will be conducted under him as his vote of confidence.
We'll look at that. We have many options. We studied them.
Okay. Is this something that can be judicially challenged?
No.
Under Sri Lankan law? No. There's no scope of judicial challenge. The only hope is to do it in the floor of Parliament. Suppose they don't agree to your terms. What are you going to do? Are you going to continue to
There will be a float.
Guns, you will remain in temple trees?
Even they have accepted the fact that there's going to be a floor test. It's only what they state is it has to be on Mr. Rajapaksa.
Right.
So that means the concept of a floor test they have accepted.
Okay.
It's only negotiating how the floor test is to be conducted.
Okay. Let me just conclude as we wind out of time on where all of this leaves Sri Lanka with regards to its neighborhood. Because again, as I said, this is something that's being watched very closely by the subcontinent, by the neighborhood. Where does this leave us with that dynamic? What should India be concerned about what's happening here? Do you think, what would you like to see India do more?
Neighborhood is concerned because Sri Lanka and India have been the two practicing democracies.
Right.
We should not have a crisis of this nature. And restoring democracy is our first task. I think everyone in the neighborhood agrees with that.
Okay.
And any help that is given, any support to restore democracy, to restore the parliamentary supremacy is what is required.
I see. So that help would be welcome at this stage.
Certainly.
Have you got any indication, because you said that you did meet the Indian envoy, did you get a sense that that help or that intervention was in the pipeline?
Well, the way we understood whenever a country says the constitutional process has to be followed, that means you have to have a parliamentary floor test.
Oh, I see. So you're reading it in those terms.
Yes.
So by when do you think, realistically, you will be back as Prime Minister, if at all?
Well, I'm here in the office.
Okay.
The floor test must be held next week.
But they have taken away all your staff, your powers, all of that, at the moment at least. Does that concern you?
Part of my staff is here.
Part of your staff is here, but like when we walked in, I've been to temple trees before.
Yeah.
I've never managed to enter so easily.
I know.
There were so many layers of
security has been ordered out here.
Does that in any way worry you?
No, I don't.
It doesn't worry you the least. Okay. Mr. Vikramasinghe, thank you very much indeed for talking to us, and we wish you all the best in your battles. Joining me live and exclusive from Colombo is Namal Rajapaksa, the son of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Thanks very much, Namal, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
When I say that your father is Prime Minister, Ranil Wickremesinghe says he's the Prime Minister.
Well,
so who is the real Prime Minister of
the
Sri
President
Lanka?
has appointed President Rajapaksa as Prime Minister according to the powers he has vested under him under the Constitution.
Right.
And we understand former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe's point because he has to hold on to the party. The time he says he is not the Prime Minister.
But Namal, he says that this entire move is illegal.
See, he says it to hang on to the political party of his own. But if you look at what he has done in 2015, the same thing. Right? The President has the powers from the Constitution to dissolve the cabinet, and President has decided to dissolve the cabinet and appoint a new cabinet. So new cabinet includes the Prime Minister him as well. It's a serious allegation, and it's a serious investigation, a plot to assassinate a head of state. But I'm sure what mattered for President Sirisena, not only that, but there are many other reasons.
What are those? Try to explain that to us, because many see this as just simply a way for the Rajapaksas, your father, to enter through the back door.
Well, see, we never entered through the back door. Okay. It was President Sirisena's invitation and the wish and the discussion between two leaders as to what they should do next to stable the economy and bring back the political, economic and social stability to the country for next couple of months.
But how long had these talks been going on?
Well, as far as we know, it goes back to 4-5 months.
But what about the charges about the proximity between China and the Rajapaksas? I mean, you saw that New York Times article. That alleged that millions of dollars of Chinese money was used to fund your father's campaign.
They had to prove it. These allegations were made during the campaign. Even now, even today, Mr. Wickremesinghe's camp is now still again saying it is Chinese funds that's going to topple them.
Yes.
So if they want to get the help of the region, they should not bring the entire political...
You're saying China has no hand behind this coup?
Nothing. This is not a coup. This is a constitutional change.
Okay,
I must reiterate that.
You're saying it's a constitutional change?
It's a constitutional right exercised by the President, according to the rights he has.
I want to ask you about India, because India is worried that the return of Mr. Rajapaksa will lead to a pro-China tilt once again in Sri Lanka.
So India has nothing to worry. We do know in the past there was a misperception or misunderstanding with the Indian and Sri Lanka during my father's government. But if you look at the agreements that Honorable Wickremesinghe got into with certain countries, it's far worse than getting them to invest in your country, right? So at that time, where was India? Did India question Honorable Prime Minister at that time, why did you get into this agreement?
So you're saying India should not be worried about what's
India shouldn't be worried.
About the return of Mr. Rajapaksa?
India shouldn't be worried at all. India should be a developing partner for us. India has been very closely working with my father during the war. India helped us to defeat terrorism, and we fought India's war. Prabhakaran assassinated Rajiv Gandhi. We all know that. So we fought not only our war, we bought peace for the region. My father bought peace for the region.
You're saying we fought India's war. But what about Ranil Wickremesinghe when he says that your father, the president, are offering millions of dollars to his MPs?
He has to say that. He has to say that. Otherwise, how is he going to hold on to his ministers? They are all coming in numbers. They're all living in numbers.
They're saying we spoke to them. They're saying they're receiving phone calls. You know, come 150 million Sri Lankan rupees.
Of course, we haven't offered a single rupee for any of his members.
But where will you get the numbers then?
We do have the numbers.
You are about 30, 35 short. You only have 95 as per the math. You have numbers. There are people there who are waiting to support you.
See, if you look at
it on the floor of the House, let me ask you about Namal Rajapaksa now. You have so far been an MP, but is this move partly to ensure the next generation of Rajapaksa taking over?
No. This political decision was taken before this happened. Let me explain this. Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe said himself, stated in political stage, President Rajapaksa never wants to take over the government because he wants to wait till Namal becomes 35 to hand it over to him. Okay. But now he's saying he made this move for me.
How old are you right now?
I'm 32.
32. So 3 more years to go.
Constitutionally 3 more years, but that's not the question here. My question is, Honorable Wickremesinghe stated one thing before, and he changed his entire story now. But I must reiterate this: we took this decision purely based on national interest to bring back political, economic, and social stability to the country.
Are you on track to become Prime Minister?
Well, it's all up to my people here, right? If someone believes that you can become the Prime Minister when you're 32, it's a dream. But my destiny will take where I am.
Do you think you're ready?
Well, it's up to people, right? I mean, I'm still 32.
How do you feel? Do you feel now, because you've now been an MP for quite a long time, do you feel now you're ready?
Well, it's all up to my people, and I'm still a member of parliament. So before thinking about the prime minister or becoming head of state, there's a long way to go in politics. And politics is something that you cannot go and ask for things. You have to be with your people and you have to earn it. Okay. So let my people decide what should
If the people decide, you're okay with it?
So let my people decide that first.
Okay, you're answering like a seasoned politician. Namad Rajapaksa.
Thank you.
Pleasure to talk to you.
Thank
Thanks
you
very
much.
much.